Welcome to the channel. Welcome to today's run through of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer updates, keeping you right up to date with everything. I'm Jamie. Before we get into it, smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's jump straight into it. So firstly, are Arsenal going to bottle this league? Let me know. I've just finished watching the game at the time of recording this video. Is the bottle job on? Let's wait and see. I think obviously Bournemouth have just beaten Arsenal 2-1. The important thing for the result for us is actually it gives Man City a little bit more of an incentive. Not that there wasn't one anyway, but to beat a bit more of an incentive to beat Chelsea tomorrow, and that's only good for us. If we can, if they do beat Chelsea and then we beat Leeds on Monday, it just gives us more breathing space because Chelsea really are the team that we need to worry about because top 5 secures Champions League now, so we can just stay ahead of them, then we're pretty much we're going to be guaranteed obviously the Champions League football, and I think that's going to give Man City a little bit of an extra edge. I fancy them to beat Chelsea tomorrow anyway, but I think it's just gives them a little bit. So actually that result was good for us because of that reason as well. But yeah, we're Arsenal about to bottle this league. Let's wait and see. Let's see what happens. But for today, there was a really good piece that came out from Rob Dawson at ESPN that I want to run through because Rob Dawson's very well connected Manchester United journalist, was away with the team on their sort of break to Dublin or their training camp in Dublin. So whether this is, information that he's picked up while on the tour from people at the club, players, other journalists, and all of that stuff. So I wanted to run through that because he's come up with some really interesting updates on what potentially could actually be a big summer in the big summer for us coming up. So I wanted to start firstly with the budget. So Rob Dawson said, well-negotiated exits, including Onana's, will be key to this summer's transfer business. United, according to sources, are hoping to cover the cost of its primary summer target, a central midfielder, with funds raised from outgoings, preserving the rest of the budget to make other additions. 4 or 5 departures could generate between 80 to 90 million pounds. The rough budget for a central midfielder to replace Casemiro, who has already announced that he will leave at the end of the season. However, the price point is not set in stone. So effectively what Rob Dawson was saying is United are planning to generate the money, and obviously we're not going to wait for sales. I don't think we're in a position where we have to sell to buy and wait for those exits, but as long as they're all done by the end of the transfer window and you get that money in through players like Onana, obviously Marcus Rashford, Malacia being out of contract, Casemiro out of contract, Jadon Sancho off the wage book, maybe Manuel Ugarte, and so on and so forth, right? These players that we are planning to sell this summer, if you can generate 80 to 100 million pounds, because the reports going around have been they want to try and get 100 million pounds for these players, that 100 million pounds will then be used for the midfielder, i.e. Elliot Anderson or Sandro Tonali are the 2 main names that are probably going to be within that price point, because I don't think United would go anywhere near Belabor at that price. However, we don't know at this stage because we might lose Anderson and we might not want to go for Sandro Tonali because 100 million pounds for a player that's had the past that he has is maybe what Man United don't want to do, or they might not want to go near that deal. And then effectively you've still got the entirety of your summer budget to go out and spend on the rest and have like a normal transfer window. So if we think back to last summer, we had 250 million pounds I think we spent at a time when we were all being told sell to buy, PSR, no European football, United are broke, and we still went out and bought Cunha, Mbumo, Sesko, and Sonny Lemons. Fantastic bits of business as well, because all of them have been a massive hit this season and definitely helped improve us and get us back to, at least in Champions League contention. I think, had it not been for those signings, we'd be absolutely in trouble by now. And that makes perfect sense for me. So if you can get the exits and then you've still got the money to go out and do your normal summer business, then potentially, yes, maybe we are on for a bit of a summer. I was watching Kieran Maguire, actually, who's a good football finance expert on the Stretford Paddock, and he was basically saying the same with the new squad cost ratios and with the exits and all of this stuff. United have money available to go and spend this summer, and we could potentially be in a really, really strong position. Obviously, The thing that we need to get right, though, is recruiting the right quality of player. And that's what the next story from Rob Dawson's piece, saying that sources have told ESPN that there's a feeling internally that getting this summer's recruitment drive right is even more important than the appointment of the next head coach. Ratcliffe and his team have learned that it's easier to recover from manager mistakes than it is from ones made in the transfer market. They are still dealing with the fallout from some of the decisions made beforehand. So what he was alluding to there is the legacy problems at United, the money we spent on Anthony and the wages. I think Onana is going to be a bit of a problem this summer because of that reason. Big transfer fee, big salary, and all those mistakes are legacy problems that Ineos are trying to clear up. And that's why we saw like Anthony last summer, difficult to sell, Sancho on loan, Rashford on loan, largely because of the wages that we paid, plus the transfer fees and PSR. You can't afford to take a loss on players with PSR rules. But interestingly, I wanted your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments. So get involved down below. Do you feel that it is more important for Man United to get the player recruitment right than it is to recruit the right manager? Because I'm 50-50 on this, because any manager is only as good as the player quality that they've got. So I do agree the fact that, we need better players and we need to get to where we want to be, which is competing for titles and for Champions Leagues and stuff, right? We are going to need better quality players. No manager is Harry Potter, where they can just come in and wave a magic wand and make the players that you've got, Champions League contenders. That's not possible. You need to get the recruitment right. But also, I do think that you do need the right manager, because there's more things that go on behind the scenes that a manager has to deal with, than just putting them on the pitch. You've got a motivation and the tactics, the in-game management, the substitutions, dealing with personal issues behind the place, the training, all of that stuff. I do actually think that there is a correlation between, a top class manager would get you over the line for the top trophies and, to win those, to get like titles and stuff. I do think that you do need, a top quality manager as well. But ultimately, I can see their point of view where they're like, well, as long as we get the recruitment right, then if the manager doesn't quite work out, we've seen it this season already, wasn't quite working with Amram gets sacked, Carrick comes in, and because he's got good players already, he's able to then get better results from them, which I can see that sort of logic. I just don't want us to constantly be swapping managers all the time, though, because Ineos have got a history of that at Nice. I don't want to see it at United anymore. But, if we've got the right team and the right squad, then, maybe it does make that sort of things. Maybe I'm just a traditionalist where I want to see a manager come in and be given like years to build, and maybe that's just not football anymore. But there's a conversation in itself. But get involved in the comments. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you think the recruitment is more important than the manager? I'm a little bit of both. I think they're both equally as important. I think you need to get the definitely the player quality. That's massively important. But I do think you need the right manager to come in, because as we've seen over the last couple of years, more recently anyway, if you get the wrong manager in, then even if you've got good players, it can fall apart and it can ruin your season. So I do think, I think both are equally as important personally. But yeah, get involved in the comments. Let me know what you think regarding that. Now, on transfers, Rob Dawson on the midfield said that Nottingham Forest, Elliot Anderson, Sandro Tonali, Adam Wharton, Bruno Guimaraes, and Carlos Baleba are all under consideration, although there are issues to overcome with each one. And what he's basically saying was that Elliot Anderson were in competition with Manchester City for. Sandro Tonali, the gambling ban in the price. Adam Wharton, they said, was seen as more of an 8 than a 6, and they prefer a 6. Bruno Guimaraes, I think, has been dismissed from the recent rumours. It may be someone we would pivot to if we didn't manage to get all of the other ones. And then Carlos Baleba is the £100 million price in his form. And I think we've been discussing that anyway. So it's nothing necessarily new in terms of the main names mentioned by Rob Dawson there. They're the usual suspects that we have been linked with for a very, very long time. Although Bruno Guimaraes is maybe a fairly new one, but at least since January anyway, the rest of those we've been largely talking about. Now, on those individually, Samuel Lucas on Elliot Anderson, who is seen as the top target, said that Man City may be front runners to sign Elliot Anderson, but Manchester United are prepared to compete for the deal. Champions League revenues, in addition to planned offloading of Casemiro, Sancho at the end of the season, will put the club in a strong financial position to outspend its rivals. And this links in with the budget story as well, suggesting that, look, if we line up all these exits, and you've got the wiggle room with Casemiro's wages, Sancho's wages, Rashford's wages, Malasia's wages, potentially Onana's wages, all off of the wage book, and again, Kieran Maguire said it on the Stretford Panic, that United do have some financial power to go out and spend some money. So even though City are seen as the favourites for Elliot Anderson, we still could have the money available to go and maybe outbid them, maybe offer more money to Forest as a way to compensate the wages, because I don't think we're going to break our wage bill. I don't think the Ineos want to do that. I don't think because they only want to sign players that want to come to United anyway, and offering more money for a player than another club doesn't really fit that model. And we've been down that road far too many times, and I wouldn't want us to do that personally. If it came down to a choice, if Elliot Anderson's decision was based on wages and Man City offer higher wages, I wouldn't want us to go down that route. I don't think he's the right profile of player we should be signing anyway, if that's important. But what it might mean is that we can outbid Man City in terms of the upfront cost for Elliot Anderson. So that's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. But he's still seen as favourite to go to Manchester City after saying all that. But there is a world in which we can get this deal done, but we'll have to wait and see. If we don't go for Anderson, the main other name is Tonali. Now, another report's coming out saying that Newcastle want the future of Sandro Tonali resolved early this summer as part of their plan to overhaul the club's agent squad. They're adamant that player trading model has to change, with the mantra buying well and selling well, but they will not sell below their £100 million valuation. And that's good. The main thing on there, we've known it's always been around £100 million for Sandro Tonali, but the main thing is that maybe they would want to do a quick deal and not end up with an Alexander Isak situation where they're waiting right to the end, scrambling around. It affected their recruitment in the summer because they didn't get that deal done, and just bite the bullet and say, okay, we've got a player that's unhappy and he wants to go, let's just sell him, get the best deal we can, and then it gives us more weeks in the window to try and get our recruitment done. They sort of messed that up a little bit, so maybe they are now a little bit more reluctant to, okay, player wants to leave, let's try and get the money in, try and get the deals done, and then move on. But then going back to the original sort of story around the budget, if we've got the £100 million and it's going to be, and United are looking to fund that through the sales, then so be it. It is what it is. We need to get a midfielder in, and if it means playing £100 million, then as long as it doesn't affect the rest of the budget, and we can still go out and get another midfielder, a left winger, or a left back, or whatever the rest of the squad rebuild needs to be done, then it is what it is, isn't it? It is what it is when it comes to the prices. But we'll keep an eye on it. I do think clubs are putting it out there at the moment, though, inflating the transfer fees. It's just negotiation tactics, isn't it? Because if you put it out there that we want 80 million, then potentially you're jibbing yourself out of 20 million quid for a player. So you always start high and then negotiate from that position, don't you? Try and negotiate it down. And then another player that's been emerging over the last couple of days and not really gone anywhere is Morgan Rogers. So Michael Carrick's expected to take the Manchester United job permanently, is pushing internally for Morgan Rogers after working with him at Middlesbrough. He believes Rogers is a perfect fit for his system, and his recommendation to Jason Wilcox has strengthened United's interest. Aston Villa would demand around £100 million. And again, I do think the prices are just negotiation tactics at the moment. That's come from Graham Bailey, suggesting firstly that Michael Carrick's online to get the permanent job, and he does seem like the favourite. I think Romano the other day did say, though, that someone at the club does like Luis Enrique. However, Enrique is looking more likely to be signing a new deal at PSG, so that one feels unlikely. I think Nagelsmann seems to be the only other manager that's being linked at this moment in time, but I'm sure they're having conversations and things behind the scenes regarding other potential candidates, but it is looking good for Michael Carrick at the moment. And I think if he gets Champions League football, that's just going to strengthen his position as well. He's been working on, by all accounts, having meetings around transfer targets and stuff. So it is looking more likely for Michael Carrick at the moment. But again, Morgan Rogers, divided opinion, I think, a little bit over the last couple of days. If we've got the money, then so be it. If that's the way we go down, I'm not against going for it. Like for Rogers, I have a preference. I'd rather go for, someone a little bit like of a different profile if we're looking at him to play left wing. But as long as it doesn't affect the rest of our transfer window and we still get the position strengthened that we need to, then so be it. But I do think it'll be a little bit less than £100 million if we did go for Morgan Rogers. And obviously there is that connection with Carrick and his time at Middlesbrough as well. But we'll wait and see what happens regarding that. But give us your thoughts and feelings, as I'm sure that you're going to, in the comments down below. Now, going back to Rob Dawson's piece, the other position that we are looking to strengthen is the left wing. So a new left winger is still on United's agenda in terms of profile. Scouts and recruitment analysts have been given a brief to find an Ahmad On the other side, according to sources, and that did actually come out from Ruben Amrim's time at the club. That's what he said in his press conference. Whether they're still looking at that, I don't know if Morgan Rogers necessarily fits that bill. Rogers, for me, would be more of a central player, like a Bruno backup, but someone who could potentially provide cover in some of the other areas. Diamande fits that sort of mold, and Jai, I think, fits that kind of mold. Is it who's the other? There's another young player that we were linked with from the Bundesliga. Is it Torre? I can't remember. He looks like an Ahmad type profile that can play off of the left wing, and we've been linked with him a few times as well. So somebody of that nature, but left wing on the agenda according to Rob Dawson. Main names though: Diamande. I would put Rogers on the list now because he can play off the left, and Jai seem to be them, but they're all going to be super expensive. But we'll wait and see what happens regarding that. Now, the other position that I personally would like United to go for is the defence. I do think another centre-half, just purely because of the injury problems and everything like that. We've got Rob Dawson on the centre-half. So according to sources, checks have also been made on several left-footed centre-backs, including Murillo at Nottingham Forest. We've obviously had links with Lukiba. Would have been interested in Slotterbeck, but he signed his new contract going off of yesterday's news. However, with Maguire staying for at least another year and other options in the shape of Martinez, De Ligt, Yoro in heaven, a new centre-back is considered less of a priority. De Ligt's long-term recovery from a back injury, though, is complicating that thinking. So I do think maybe they are starting to get worried and nervous about De Ligt's long-term injury record with a bad back. It's one of these that could go either way, and obviously it's taken its time to heal, and his recovery is still not there yet. Maybe that does force United to look into, go for a centre-back, but I don't think, again, it's all going to depend on the budget, and how we stretch that budget will depend on whether we do pivot for a centre-back or not. Now, on the midfield, if we go back to the midfielders, Rob Dawson said a second midfielder is also being lined up, with players like João Gomez and Mateus Fernandes considered attainable if Wolves and West Ham are relegated. Sources have told ESPN that United have had an extensive dossier on Gomez since his breakthrough at Flamengo. So that's, again, two potential opportunity midfield signings depending on relegation. I think Wolves are effectively gone, aren't they, off of the result from yesterday. West Ham sort of winning, getting themselves out of the relegation zone. We'll keep an eye on the fixtures for today and see how it all gets on, who gets dragged down into that relegation race. So maybe they are looking, going off of this report, Tonali or Anderson as their top targets, and then the second midfielder, according to Rob Dawson, João Gomez or Mateus Fernandes. So we'll see what happens regarding that. And then the other way that we could potentially improve the squad if we need to is going down the free transfer route. And again, Rob Dawson said that sources have told ESPN that recruitment staff are closely studying this summer's list of free agents as a way of potentially bolstering the squad without burning too much of a hole in the budget. The priority remains to bring in an established world-class midfielder, and everything else will have to fit around it. So give us your options of freebies in the summer. The ones when checking on the sort of lists and stuff that would stand out for me, and there's quite a few players on there, is Vlahovic from Juventus. If we wanted to go for a backup striker, Vlahovic could be available, although there are rumours that he is in contract negotiations with Juventus. Senesi would be another one, a very good centre-half, available on a free. Reports are, though, that his maybe preference would be to go to Spain. But if you want to go for a centre-back, that's good, that's Premier League proven, that has a bit of experience, that wouldn't even cost you anything, maybe a signing-on fee and some wages, then Senesi is one that stands out like a sore thumb to me in that particular position. Goretzka in midfield is another one. If you wanted to bring in a third midfielder with some experience and Champions League experience, we've been linked with him for years, and we've been linked with him recently as well. Is potentially up there. There are rumours about Arsenal and a few other clubs, but Leon Goretzka was available as a free agent as well. They seem to be the main three names. I'm going to quick glance at the the list of who's potentially going to be available on a free transfer in the summer. So that's interesting. So they are keeping all their options open, where maybe we do supplement the squad with a couple of free transfers, and I don't have an issue with that whatsoever. They're not, as long they're not like going to be coming in to necessarily be first teamers, but someone like Senesi at centre half would actually probably be a very good contender to be a first team player. I think he's a really good centre half. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But give us your thoughts, give us some suggestions in the comments down below. I mean, Neymar's available on a free. Could we be going down that route for the left wing? I highly doubt it, but you know, there's some options out there on the free transfer market. So get involved in that down in the comments below. And then the final bit from the piece that I wanted to go through is this. So third in the table after the resurgence under Carrick, United feel they are on the verge of creating a title-challenging squad if they can find the right players. Ratcliffe, Barada and Wilcox don't need Maguire to remind them that it's an important summer. Work is set to ramp up over the coming weeks as they seek to make the next step forward. So again, I want your thoughts and feelings on this. Do you think if we get the recruitment right this summer, do you think we could be challenging for a title next season? I mean, the way the league's gone, and I'm looking at other teams and I'm like, I don't think there's that much of a gulf. It's just been consistency has been our problem. And we still have, you know, deficiencies in the squad. But if you fix that midfield and then bring in a couple of additions in terms of like squad depth, but the depth not even really, you know, the depth is just more for rotation. But in terms of a first 11, if you can get that midfield solved, I don't see there being a massive gulf anyway between us and the teams above us. The problem we've had has been consistency, where we couldn't string two results together under Ruben Amorim. But Michael Carrick's come in, steadied the ship, and we've started to get, you know, consistent results. And if we can continue that, but then build on that, i.e. get a little bit better performances and get a little bit more you know, more confidence and so on, then I don't think we'd win the title, but I think we could be better off than where we are now. So I think that, you know, with a few more points, a few more wins next season, who knows? But a lot will depend on the recruitment of other teams as well. Like City could go out and have an absolute, you know, disastrous transfer window, or they could go out and have an extraordinary transfer window, in which case, you know, so you don't know at this stage. I think a lot will depend on what the recruitment is like for other teams, but we're not a million miles off. I think if you did get good recruitment this summer, then why not? Why would we not aim for the stars? Because that's where we want to be, right? And there's no point just downplaying it all the time as a fan, saying, we're never going to win a title or anything, or we're miles off. I don't actually think we are. I don't think we're miles off. I think we're a few top quality players away from challenging. Whether we would get over the line or not, you know, that might depend on, we might need a few more additional players, some you know, sprinkling of some stardust and some world-class players on top, maybe a coach and so on and so forth. But I don't think that's, you know, I don't think that's massively naive, because, you know, if we want to get back to winning titles, we're going to have to do it at some point in time. We're going to have to start believing again. But get involved in the comments. Let me know what you think regarding that, get involved on all the other topics discussed in today's video. That's you all up to date with the latest news and transfer updates. Don't forget to smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. See you in the next one.